So continuing with our top-down shooter, we're going to spend this quick video making a game manager that will handle most of the functionality of what's going on within the game. So to do this, why don't we just get started by making an empty game object. I'm going to reset its transforms. I'm going to call this game manager. All right. So after we make our game manager, we need to make a script called GM. This will be our game manager script. And we're just going to call it GM for short. Well, it looks like I made that in the wrong folder, so I'm just going to drag and drop my GM script into my scripts folder. And there's my GM script. And now I'm going to drag and drop GM onto my game manager. And just to tidy things up, I'm going to bring my game manager up to the top of my hierarchy. All right, so how do we make this game manager different than just a normal script that you would attach to any other object? Well, I want to go ahead and reformat some of this code, get it ready, just get a blank slate going on. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a public static variable of type GM, and we're going to call it instance. And we're going to set it to null, set it to nothing. So this line of code basically makes a public variable that is static. So this variable instance will be accessible anywhere within our code. It's of type GM, and it's referencing itself. So this is a very important kind of casting that we're doing here. Let me make sure I spell that right. So our variable instance will be able to be called, will be able to be used in any kind of script, any script within our game. And since it's type GM, it points back to the script itself. So that may be a little bit hard to understand until we actually see it in use, but we're still not done. We're going to use a singleton game object logic method to make sure that we only have one game instance active in our scene at a time. So it's just an easy little lines of code. So first we're going to do a void awake function. All right, let's get our brackets going. And we're going to say if instance equals null, then we're going to say instance equals this. So basically saying at the start of our code, we've already instantiated and declared and assigned a value to our instance variable here. We've already set its value to nothing. So as soon as our game starts and void awake will trigger this if statement. And since we've already declared or assigned a value of instance to nothing, then it's going to hit this first line of code. And then it's going to set instance equal to this, or this game object, this script. It's pointing back at itself. So now we have a game object loaded, a game manager loaded into our scene. On the flip side, if instance does not equal null, meaning if there's already a game object or a game manager game object in our scene, then we need to say destroy this game object, because we're assuming that we've already got a game object instantiated into our scene. So this is basically a duplicate game manager, so we need to destroy it. All right. So these 4 lines of code here in this await function is the singleton logic that makes sure there's only one game manager active in any given scene. All right, so I'm going to hit Control S and save. So why don't we test some of the functionality we can do instead of a game manager? We're going to primarily use our game manager as a library of user-made, hand-rolled functions. So continuing with that theme, why don't we make a public void print test function. And the parameter is going to take a parameter. It's going to take a string parameter called myString. So now, whenever we go to another script, we can call this print test function, and we can pass in something. And what it's going to do is it's going to trigger all the body code in the body here. So we're just going to do a simple debug.log, and we're going to have it print myString, the parameter myString. All right. see, some syntax errors real quick. Just need to get rid of that semicolon right there at the end of the function. Since we're making a function, we don't, it's just like making like a void awake. No semicolon needed. There we go. So now we have a function within our game manager that will print whatever we pass into my print test function. So why don't we pass something in there? And since I already have a player mover script, we'll use our player mover script as a way just to trigger something. So why don't we just go down here, and inside of our void update, this is going to be temporary code. I'm going to say if input dot get mouse button down, and if we click our left mouse click, we're simply going to call gm dot instance dot print test. And something interesting is happening here. As soon as we call gm and hit dot, we're already pointing to our GM game manager class right here, since it's a public static variable. And then let's go back, and then we can even scroll through here and look at this. We have our variable name instance right there. It already loads it into all the possible things it could be. So I can just click instance, and then even something cooler happens. If we scroll down here, print test is now a function, like if it was just, part of the other functions that are included inside of Unity. So all we have to say is print test, and we need to pass a string into it. So I'll say hello world and semicolon. All right, this is a pretty powerful tool right here. So why don't we go ahead and see what happens when we press play. I press the left mouse click. As you can see, I'm getting the hello world constantly being written. So again, the way the logic is going here in my player mover script and void update, if I press left click right here, then I call my print test function located in GM. We get to that print test function by typing gm.instance.printtest, and then we pass in the value hello world. So we go over here, hello world is passed into this local parameter for my print test function, and then we just simply print this local parameter right here. So functions are very powerful. We can include a lot of different public functions inside my game manager and call them throughout all the rest of the scripts inside of my game scene here. And we'll be using our game manager to control lots of different things inside this game here. So make sure you understand kind of how public static variables work, how we're referencing back to our game object right here, our game manager game object. So we can call gm dot the name of my static variable right here, and then we can call any function we want, and we can pass in any kind of values we need to. And now we got functionality working between two different scripts here. Very object-oriented type of programming we got going on. All right, thanks guys.